As you know, I'm Larry Bagley, and I am a candidate or an applicant for the vacant District 2 council seat. About 4 years ago, I was a candidate and I campaigned for the same seat. It was when Darrell Glenn vacated at midterm when he was elected county commissioner. So this is kind of deja vu, different faces, but it's deja vu all over again. I'd like to take a couple minutes and make some comments and then answer any questions that you might have for me. In late 1992, my wife and I moved back to Colorado Springs permanently. And I became very active in many of the volunteer community groups. And based on my participation in some of those groups, I'd like to demonstrate or hope to demonstrate my commitment to our community, my advocacy for neighborhoods, an understanding of some city government processes and issues, and my support for regional solutions and collaborative government. Excuse me, as a member of the Falcon Estates, thank you, Homeowners Association, I was on the board, and I was also on the board of Kono back in the mid-90s, late 90s. Falcon Estates is at Woodman and Academy. It's on the north side of Woodman, on the east and west side of Academy. It's a rural residential area, still zoned for horses, although we've been annexed. As a board member, I was very active in a couple of things that happened in the mid to late 90s. The area around Falcon Estates and Falcon Estates was annexed into the city, and we had development that went in along both sides of Academy from north out of Woodman. And as a board member, I worked closely, we all did on the board, we worked closely with the homeowners, with the city staff, the city planners, and with the developers. Now those three groups are very diverse, and especially in the homeowners. You know, it wasn't just one voice. They had many different groups and opinions. As a board member, we worked with, as I said, with those three groups, and we went through the master planning process. We went through the land use, we went through the zoning issues, and we went through the development planning process. And in the development planning process with the homeowners, we developed a list of conditions of record that we wanted to put on all the development plans. It depends on who the developer was when you're talking about along Woodman. You know, the Home Depot, Sam's Club, and the others all went in at different times. But we worked with all the developers, and we got the conditions of records that the homeowners wanted to mitigate some of the concerns that they had. The concerns they had basically were the property values would decrease, traffic would be higher, the crime would be higher because of all this development in there. Well, after going through all these processes, we were able to develop the conditions of records that mitigated most of those concerns. By the time we got to the approval and worked through and they actually started doing the development, I think we got into a position where it was a win-win situation for all three groups. The homeowners felt like their concerns had been met, their property values didn't decrease, the developers had completed their development and had found occupants for their buildings, and the city was making money on the revenue from the commercial businesses that had gone in there. The other group I was with was the PPACG CAC, the Community Advisory Council Committee. And it is comprised of representatives from the adjacent communities. Colorado Springs has representatives, El Paso County, Manitou Springs, Security, Monument, and there's also a representative from the League of Women's Voters and one from Kono. Now the reason I mention this is it was the CAC reviewed the regional transportation plan, the transportation improvement plan, the reasonable advancement of maintenance program, and the bridge maintenance program. They made recommendations to the PPACG on what the priorities would be, make recommendations on changes to the plans, and it was a regional collaborative effort. And I became a strong believer based on the experience with the CAC on regional solutions to issues and collaborative government. I am committed to our community. I'm an advocate for neighborhoods. I understand some of the city processes and the issues, and I'm a strong supporter of regional solution for our issues and collaborative government. Any questions?
Okay, so start with questions. Anybody would like to raise a question? And Councilmember Bennett.
Yeah, Larry, it's great to see you.
How you doing?
I'm doing great. You know, when I was running at the same time that you were running, they wanted us to tell us how we felt on certain issues. And what I'm more interested in is how do you make decisions? So can you give me an idea as to the process you go through to, because a lot of the issues you may be addressing, we don't even know about right now. So
Yes.
what is the process you'll go through in making quality decisions?
Well, first off, find out the facts. Determine some alternatives. Do a cost-benefit analysis if it's that kind of a decision, and then make the best decision you can at the time and go with it.
Good. Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Collins.
Hi, Mr. Bagley. Have you ever attended a utilities board meeting?
I have not.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Other questions? Councilmember Gaber.
Mr. Bagley, if you were appointed, do you have any top priorities for what you would like to do during your time? Stormwater.
Stormwater.
Okay.
That was one of the big issues with part of the Falcon Estates, is that they were on the west side sloping down from Academy to Woodman. And when the development went in, there was a strong possibility of a lot of water, stormwater rushing down. We worked with the developers who then agreed to put in some additional detention ponds and also increase the drainage plan that they had for that development area. So it worked out for at least for a while until we get the 100-year flood, and then it won't work.
Councilmember Collins.
And what would you suggest we do to alleviate the stormwater issue?
I would propose a very similar thing that Dave Munger and his group put together that was on the ballot and voted down. I don't really understand why that was, but something similar to that. I don't know all the details of the mayor's plan, but I'm willing to listen to what the plan would be or is and see which one would work. But we got to do something. It's going to cost money, just like the roads and the bridges. At some time, it's going to cost money to get those things done, and we're going to have to bite the bullet and do it, I think. We've got to convince the voters that they need to do it. Because if we do, I think. I'm sorry, I was going to be a Baptist preacher at one time.
Councilmember Knight.
Noticing your resume, your military background, have you, in any of that, did you work with the different branches and get appreciation of the roles of the executive branch versus roles of the legislative branch?
I never had a joint assignment. I worked in a couple of joint program offices, as an example, the NAVSTAR GPS program office in Los Angeles. And we had representatives from all the services and the NATO nations. And we had some from England, not England, they're NATO, but Australia. So I've worked with joint operations, but not in a joint assignment.
Yes, my question is more of working, were you ever a PIM? Did you have to work with Congress on financial
yes,
or executive
yes,
branches, the executive branch on the program memorandum directive?
Yes, had to go up quite a few times to see the chief of staff and then the acquisition side to go brief them and get approval of our budgets. So I was fortunate. Sometimes I was lucky and got it approved. Sometimes I didn't. But it worked. I did, yes.
Councilmember Martin.
Larry, thanks for being here tonight.
Yes, ma'am.
You mentioned stormwater, but that's sort of on everybody's list.
Yes.
What are a couple other priorities that you think we ought to be addressing here at the city?
I'll pick the C4C because that's been in the news most recently. And I think we've got to get some movement on that. I think we need to have the revenues that's could be generated. And I think we need to solve our disagreements on C4C and at least start moving forward on it. 15 seconds. 13, 12, left hand.
Give us one final thought on.
Yes, sir.
Give us one final thought on the legislative role of council that you would like to participate in, how you would see your participation in that.
Well, I would say it's the advice and consent. The strong mayor we voted on years ago, and I'm sure not everybody agreed on the same definition of strong mayor at the time, but we voted on it, and we've got a strong mayor and a legislative strong mayor approach to it. So I would say we're more the advice and consent to the mayor, at least going in.
Okay, great. All right, well, thank you very much for your
Yes, sir.
time. We appreciate it,
Thank you.
and we thank you for being here tonight.